I never thought it'd end like this. Never in a million years. When I walked into that apartment on Fifth Avenue, I wasn't prepared for what I was about to see. The sound of the door creaking open felt like the universe itself was about to drop a heavy truth on me. I thought I knew my life. I thought I knew my girlfriend, Emily, and my brother Kyle. But I was wrong. You don't just walk in on something like that and walk out the same person. Not ever. Hell, I thought that day was gonna be just another one of those easy Sunday afternoons, me, Emily, and Kyle chilling at my place after a long week of work. Maybe we'd throw back a couple beers, laugh about stupid stuff, and talk about anything except the fact that our lives were about to implode. But before I get into all that, let me back up. A little context, right? My name's Jared. I've never been anything special, just a guy from the suburbs trying to make a decent living. Worked a normal 9-to-5 job in sales at a tech company. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills. And then there's Emily. She's the one I thought was the one. I met her about 2 years ago. She had that warmth about her that made you feel like you could tell her anything. She laughed at my dumb jokes, called me a dork, but in a way that made me feel good about it. We'd been together for almost a year, and I thought we had something real. We'd talked about moving in together, getting a place in the city, maybe even getting a dog. She was so easy to talk to. She got along with my friends. Hell, she even got along with Kyle. And then there's Kyle. My brother. If there was one person I trusted, it was him. Kyle's the type of guy who people gravitate toward. Charismatic, always joking around, always there when you needed him. We grew up sharing everything: clothes, video games, bikes. We'd stayed close through our whole lives. Sure, we had our moments growing up, but we always had each other's backs. He was the guy I could count on, hell, the guy I'd go to for advice. The three of us were like a little family. Weekends, we'd hang out at my place or his. Emily, Kyle, and I, just the three of us, sitting around, playing cards, talking about our lives. I'd always thought how lucky I was that the two people I cared about most got along so well. It felt natural, like they were siblings, too. The kind of relationship you always want, close, effortless, trusting. I remember last summer, we went on this beach trip together. It was just the three of us, no one else. We rented a cabin up near Santa Monica Boulevard, played volleyball, drank too much, stayed up late talking about everything. Kyle was teasing Emily about how she always stole the last slice of pizza, and she was pretending to be mad but was really laughing. It felt like we were a team, a unit. Kyle was the kind of guy who'd have your back no matter what. I always looked up to him, even when we were younger. He was the guy who could make everyone laugh, who always knew what to say to fix a situation. I thought there was nothing Kyle could do that would ever break my trust. He was my brother. The one person who couldn't hurt me. And Emily? Well, Emily was my future. I loved her more than I'd ever been able to explain. She made me feel like I was someone worth loving, like I could build a life with her. We talked about it. Our future. How we'd grow old together. I was so sure. I was so damn sure. But that night, everything changed. It started with a party. It wasn't anything fancy, just a gathering at my place to celebrate a promotion I'd gotten at work. Emily, Kyle, and I were there, along with a few friends. There was drinking, laughing, music playing, the usual. Emily was in a good mood. Kyle was being his usual self, joking around with everyone. Everything seemed fine. In fact, everything seemed perfect. At one point, Emily disappeared into the kitchen. I didn't think much of it. Probably grabbing some snacks, you know? Kyle followed her in there, like he always did. They were close. Too close, in hindsight, but at the time, I never thought twice about it. I trusted them both. It felt natural. I was sitting with a couple of friends, but I kept noticing Kyle and Emily in the kitchen, talking, laughing. Kyle was leaning a little too close to her, and Emily was laughing too hard at whatever he was saying. It was weird. Unsettling, even. But again, I brushed it off. Maybe it was nothing. Around midnight, the party started to thin out. People began to leave, and the place quieted down. I figured it was time to call it a night. I walked to the kitchen to grab a drink, and saw something I can never forget. It still haunts me. Emily was standing there, wearing that look, the one she gets when she's nervous but trying to play it cool. Kyle was standing too close to her. And then, out of nowhere, I saw him kiss her. Not a friendly peck on the cheek, not even one of those "we're all just having fun" kisses. No. It was full on, lips locked, intense. I froze. I didn't know what to say. What to do. I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. This couldn't be happening. Not to me. Not with my brother and the woman I loved. But as I stood there in the doorway, staring at the two of them, it got worse. Kyle noticed me first. His face went pale, like he'd seen a ghost. Emily turned around slowly, her expression falling the second she saw me. But then, instead of the usual embarrassment or shame you'd expect, she just looked at me, eyes wide. She didn't even flinch. I stood there, completely paralyzed, until my mouth opened, but no words came out. It felt like everything around me was spinning. How could this be real? How was this even happening? And then Emily did something I'll never forget. She grabbed a frying pan from the counter and swung it at me, like she was trying to ward off an attacker. I barely dodged it, and the pan clattered to the floor. "Jared, calm down! It's not what it looks like!" she screamed. I was in shock. How could she say that? How could they both think they could lie their way out of this? Before I could even react, Kyle stepped in between us. He held his hands up in a defensive gesture, his eyes wide and pleading. "Jared, man, listen, this isn't what you think." That's when it hit me. This wasn't a one-time thing. This wasn't a mistake. This was betrayal. From two people I thought I could trust more than anyone else in the world. After that night, I couldn't shake the image from my mind, the kiss. My brother, my best friend, kissing Emily like it was no big deal. I was numb, angry, and confused all at once. But there was something deeper brewing inside me, something I couldn't quite name. Betrayal. It was everywhere. But I couldn't process it yet. I kept replaying the scene over and over in my head, wondering how I didn't see it coming. I was so blind, so damn naive. The days after that were a blur. Emily kept texting me, trying to apologize, trying to explain. At first, I didn't answer. I couldn't. Every time I thought about responding, the anger would rise in my chest, and I'd slam my phone down in frustration. Kyle, on the other hand, tried to reach out too. He left me a couple of messages, but they were all vague, like he didn't want to admit what happened. His words didn't make sense. It was like he was afraid to come out and say it. Like he was trying to talk his way out of it. It wasn't until 3 days later that I finally broke. I couldn't handle it anymore. I needed answers. I needed to know why. So I called Kyle, told him we needed to talk. He agreed, but when I showed up at his place, he looked like he was about to have a panic attack. His eyes were darting around, and he kept shifting nervously on his feet. "Jared, look, man. I don't know what to say." Kyle started, his voice shaky. "I fucked up. I know. But it wasn't supposed to be like this." "Not supposed to be like this?" I repeated, my voice cold. "What the hell does that even mean, Kyle?" He rubbed his hands through his hair, clearly uncomfortable. "I don't know, man. It just happened. I didn't plan it. It wasn't like we were." "You kissed her, Kyle," I snapped, my voice rising despite myself. "You kissed her. And you think it wasn't planned? You think it wasn't some twisted thing you've been hiding? I wasn't thinking straight, okay?" He sounded desperate now. "I didn't mean for it to go that far. It was just... I don't know. It was a mistake." "A mistake?" I was shaking now. "You kissed my girlfriend, my woman, Kyle. That's not a mistake, that's something you did on purpose. You knew what you were doing. Don't lie to me." His face fell, and for a second, I saw something in his eyes that I never expected: shame. Real deep shame. But then, he quickly masked it with his usual smirk. Look, I get it, man. I screwed up. But you gotta understand. Emily, she's been different lately. She wasn't herself. And He cut himself off before finishing the sentence, like he was about to say something too deep, something he didn't want to admit. I stared at him, my chest tightening with a mix of disbelief and anger. You're not making any sense. This is messed up, Kyle. I don't know what the hell is going on between the two of you, but I'm done. I can't deal with this. Kyle opened his mouth to speak, but I raised my hand to stop him. I couldn't hear another word. Not from him. Not from her. I walked out of his apartment without saying another word, my mind spinning, my heart breaking in a way I couldn't even describe. This wasn't just a betrayal. This was a double betrayal. Emily wasn't just my girlfriend. She was my future, the one person I thought I could trust above all others. And my brother, my own damn brother, had crossed a line that I couldn't even comprehend. For the next few days, I stayed away from both of them. I didn't answer their calls, didn't reply to their texts. They were both trying to justify what had happened, but nothing could make this right. Nothing could fix what they had broken. Then, one day, I got a text from Emily. It was a simple message. Can we talk? I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to throw my phone across the room and forget everything. The other part of me, maybe the part that still loved her, wanted to hear her side, to know if there was some explanation I was missing. So, against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her. We sat at a coffee shop. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, her eyes red and puffy, her hair a mess. She seemed different. Like she was ashamed but also desperate to make things right. I'm sorry, Jared, she started, her voice trembling. I never wanted to hurt you. I love you, I swear. But what happened with Kyle, it wasn't planned. It wasn't meant to happen. You kissed him, Emily, I said flatly, my voice thick with disbelief. What else can you say to me? How do you expect me to just forgive you for that? I didn't. She stopped herself, shaking her head. I didn't want it to go that far. But She hesitated, and I could see the hesitation in her eyes. She was trying to tell me something, something she didn't want to admit. But I couldn't stay in that moment anymore. I knew there was no point in asking for answers. There was nothing she could say to fix what had happened. My heart hurt too much. I can't do this, I said, standing up. I can't be with you anymore, Emily. I don't even know who you are anymore. And I don't think I can forgive Kyle for what he's done either. I walked out of the coffee shop without another word, knowing that this was the end. But deep down, I also knew there was more. Something else was coming. The kiss wasn't the end of the story. I had a feeling that the truth about what had happened between Emily and Kyle wasn't fully out yet. The days after my confrontation with Emily were pure hell. I couldn't escape the gnawing feeling of betrayal that seemed to eat at me from the inside out. Every corner of my life reminded me of her, our favorite diner, the places we used to hang out, even the smell of her perfume that seemed to linger on my clothes long after she'd left. It was all suffocating, and no matter how hard I tried to get away from it, the pain just wouldn't go away. I kept telling myself that I needed space, that I needed to cut her out of my life for good. But it was hard, so damn hard, especially with Kyle. We'd been through so much together. He was my brother. He was the guy I went to for everything, the guy I trusted more than anyone. And now, everything felt like a lie. I'd stopped answering their calls, but then Emily texted me again. It was a simple message. Can we meet? I need to talk. Against my better judgment, I agreed. I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe I thought she would finally give me some kind of explanation that would make sense of all this madness. Maybe I just wanted closure. But whatever it was, I couldn't get out of it now. I had to face this head on. We agreed to meet at a park, a neutral place where I thought we could have an honest conversation. When I showed up, I didn't see her at first. But then, as I walked further into the park, I saw her sitting on a bench by the lake. She looked smaller than usual, like the weight of everything that had happened had finally caught up with her. I took a deep breath and approached her. "Emily," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "We need to talk. No more avoiding this." She looked up at me, her eyes tired but still hopeful, like she thought this could be fixed. "Jared, I know things between us are messed up right now. But I need you to know I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted to betray you." I shook my head. "You already did, Emily. You don't get to apologize for that. You kissed my brother. Behind my back. And you think an apology is going to fix that?" Her voice faltered. "I didn't mean for it to happen that way. It was a mistake, Jared. Please, just let me explain." I crossed my arms. "I don't need explanations. I need honesty. I need the truth." Emily lowered her gaze, and for a moment, I thought she was going to say something more. But then, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. Movement. And it wasn't just a couple of birds flying by or someone walking their dog. I turned my head, and what I saw froze me in my tracks. Across the park, near the woods, I could make out two figures standing together. My brother Kyle was one of them. The other was Emily. I felt my heart drop into my stomach as I watched them. They were close, too close. My first instinct was to look away, to not witness whatever was happening between them. But I couldn't tear my eyes away. They were talking, but I couldn't hear their words. I could only see the way they were standing, the way they were looking at each other. And then, before I could process it, Kyle reached out and touched her arm. Emily didn't pull away. She actually leaned into him, like there was nothing wrong with it. Like they weren't both betraying me at that very moment. I felt the blood drain from my face. My legs were shaking, but I couldn't move. I couldn't turn away. It was like I was paralyzed, trapped in this nightmare I couldn't escape from. And then, it happened. I watched as Kyle took a step closer to Emily, and without another word, he kissed her. It wasn't just a peck on the cheek, or a friendly gesture. It was a kiss that I could feel in my bones. A kiss that confirmed everything I'd been afraid of. A kiss that was meant for me, not him. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I was watching the person I trusted more than anyone in the world, the person I had grown up with, kiss the woman I thought I would spend my life with. It was like the world was spinning, but I was stuck in place, unable to escape the reality of what was unfolding before my eyes. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run over there and break them apart, but my body wouldn't move. I was rooted to the spot, my mind unable to process what I was seeing. But then something else happened that made everything worse. Kyle stepped back from Emily, his hand lingering on her arm as he whispered something in her ear. Emily smiled at him. And that smile, God, that smile, was all I needed to see. It wasn't the smile of someone who was guilty. It was the smile of someone who was enjoying this, who was taking pleasure in the betrayal. I felt sick. I wanted to throw up. I wanted to burn the whole damn park down and forget everything that was happening. I turned to leave, not wanting them to see me, but I felt like I couldn't leave fast enough. I didn't want to see them together anymore. I didn't want to see the woman I loved in my brother's arms. But just before I could turn the corner, I heard Emily's voice behind me. "Jared, wait! Please don't go!" I didn't even turn around. I didn't have to hear any more lies. I didn't need her to explain herself. I had seen enough. The truth was staring me right in the face, and it was more than I could handle. I kept walking, faster this time, my heart pounding in my chest, my thoughts a whirlwind of rage and confusion. This was it. I couldn't pretend anymore. The kiss wasn't enough to break us apart. But this was the end. I would never be able to look at either of them the same way again. I don't know how long I walked after leaving Emily in that park. Everything felt like a blur. I was angry, fury boiling up in me like a volcano, but there was this hollow pit in my stomach too, a deep, aching emptiness that I couldn't escape. It was the worst feeling I'd ever had. Betrayed by both of them. I trusted them with everything. And now Now they had each other. I knew I couldn't go back to that apartment. Not yet. I didn't want to see them, didn't want to hear anything else they had to say. I thought I'd feel better if I just walked around, tried to clear my head. But no matter how far I went, I couldn't escape it. The image of Kyle kissing Emily kept playing in my mind over and over again. I couldn't shake the way her smile looked when she pulled away from him. How they seemed so comfortable with each other. I wanted to confront them, to tell them both exactly what I thought of them, but a part of me wasn't ready for that. I wasn't sure I'd be able to hold it together. So, I just kept walking. Hours later, I ended up back at the apartment, exhausted, but not even close to being at peace. I stood in front of the door, my hand on the doorknob. For a moment, I almost convinced myself to just go somewhere else. Maybe I'd take a trip, get away from all of this. But I couldn't. I had to face it. I opened the door quietly, trying not to make a sound. I didn't expect to find them here. Emily was supposed to be at her place, and Kyle had been distant ever since I caught that glimpse of them in the park. But when I stepped into the living room, the sight hit me like a freight train. They were in my bed. It took a second for my brain to register what I was seeing. My heart stopped in my chest. Kyle and Emily. Both of them. They were tangled together on my sheets, not caring that they were completely exposed, like they'd forgotten I existed. Emily was on her back, her eyes closed, her lips parted. Kyle was on top of her, and from where I was standing, I could see everything. I could see the way their bodies fit together like they'd done this 1,000 times before. I could see Kyle's face twisted in pleasure as he thrust into her, and I could see Emily's hands gripping his back, urging him on. I didn't make a sound. I couldn't. It was like my mind had short-circuited, my entire body frozen in place. My worst fear was playing out in front of me, but I couldn't move. For a moment, I just stood there, watching. I was in shock, unable to fully process what was happening. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. I thought maybe I was hallucinating, maybe the pain of everything had finally broken me. But then, Emily opened her eyes. She saw me. I wish I could say I could have walked away. I wish I could have been the bigger person and left them to their business. But I couldn't. Not after everything. Not after all the lies, all the trust that had been shattered. The look on her face was like a deer caught in headlights. She froze, her breath catching in her throat as her eyes locked onto mine. But Kyle, he didn't stop. He didn't even seem to notice at first. Maybe he thought it was some sick joke or something. But as Emily's face went pale, Kyle glanced up, and when he saw me, his expression shifted from confusion to something closer to guilt. But still, he didn't stop. He just kept going. "Jared," Emily whispered, but her voice was shaky. "Wait. This isn't what it looks like. Please." I couldn't speak. I couldn't think. Everything in my body wanted to scream, to yell, to do something. Anything. But I couldn't. My legs were rooted to the spot, my fists clenched so tight I could feel my nails digging into my palms. Kyle pulled back for a second, finally registering the situation. But instead of stopping, he muttered, "Jared, man, listen, we didn't mean for you to find out like this." "You didn't mean to?" I wanted to say. "You didn't mean to?" But all I could do was stand there and stare at them, at Kyle, who was supposed to be my brother, the one person I'd always trusted. And Emily. The woman I'd fallen in love with, the woman I thought I was going to marry. I looked at them, and I saw nothing but betrayal. Then, finally, it hit me. The full weight of everything. I couldn't breathe. I didn't know what to feel. Rage, heartbreak, disgust. Maybe a mix of all of it. Kyle seemed to notice my struggle. He slowly sat up, pulling away from Emily, who was still trying to sit up, trying to gather herself. "Jared, please," Kyle said again, this time with more urgency in his voice. "We didn't want to hurt you. We never wanted this to happen." I finally found my voice, though it came out strained and hoarse. "How long, Kyle? How long have you two been this? How long have you been lying to me?" Kyle looked at me, eyes full of shame. I don't know. It wasn't supposed to go this far. But it did, man. And I'm sorry. We both are. Emily had pulled the blanket around her, trying to hide herself. But it was too late. The damage was done. Sorry? I repeated, my voice thick with anger. Sorry doesn't fix this. Nothing fixes this. The worst part wasn't even the physical act I'd walked in on. It wasn't seeing them together in my bed. No, the worst part was realizing that everything I thought I knew about my life was a lie. The love I had for Emily, the trust one had in Kyle, none of it meant anything. It had all been a charade. I turned away, my body trembling, my mind running 1,000,000 miles a minute. I couldn't stay there. I couldn't stay in that apartment another second. Jared, Emily called, her voice soft, desperate. Don't go. Please. Let's talk about this. Let's fix it. But I didn't stop. I didn't turn around. I couldn't look at either of them. Not after this. I slammed the door behind me, and the noise of it ringing in my ears was like the final nail in the coffin. I didn't know where I was going. It didn't matter. The apartment, the memories, everything I'd built with Emily and Kyle, it all felt like it was being stripped away, piece by piece. I walked without any direction in mind, trying to put one foot in front of the other, but my body felt like it didn't belong to me anymore. I was hollow. I didn't go back to my place that night. I couldn't. So, I ended up crashing at a friend's house, someone I hadn't seen in years but who had an open door. I don't even remember half of the conversation we had. I think I just drank myself into a stupor. At least it numbed the pain for a little while. But nothing lasted. The next morning, I woke up to a dozen missed calls, both from Emily and Kyle. I didn't even look at them. I didn't want to hear their voices, didn't want to hear any more lies, any more apologies. They'd had their chance. I spent the next few days like a zombie, just going through the motions of life. Work was a blur. I wasn't eating, barely sleeping. My thoughts were consumed by what I'd seen, what I couldn't unsee. Kyle and Emily. In my bed. Together. But then, something unexpected happened. Kyle showed up at my work. I didn't expect to see him again, not like this, and definitely not in the middle of my shift. But there he was, standing in the doorway to my office, looking like hell. His eyes were bloodshot, his hair a mess, like he hadn't slept in days. Jared, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. We need to talk. I know you don't want to hear it, but please, just give me a minute. I didn't say anything. I just stared at him, numb. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to look at him anymore. He was still my brother, but in that moment, he felt like a stranger. Please, Kyle repeated. I fucked up. I know I did. But I never meant for it to go this far. It just happened. And I didn't know how to stop it. I finally found my voice, though it was shaky, raw with anger and disbelief. You didn't know how to stop it? I repeated, scoffing. You didn't know how to stop it? You've been sleeping with my girlfriend, Kyle. My fucking girlfriend. And you didn't know how to stop it? Kyle's face went pale, and he took a step back, like he was afraid I might hit him. I get it. I'm a piece of shit. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I swear, I didn't want to hurt you. I never wanted to. Don't. I cut him off. Don't sit here and tell me you didn't mean to hurt me. You did. Both of you did. And no matter how much you beg or apologize, it won't change what you did. There was a long silence, and Kyle stood there, his shoulders slumped. I could see the guilt on his face, but it didn't make a damn difference. Guilt didn't fix what had been broken. I know you hate me, and you have every right to, he said quietly. But I need you to know that I'm sorry. I fucked up. And I'll live with that for the rest of my life. Good, I said flatly. You should. Kyle opened his mouth to say something else, but I didn't want to hear it. I couldn't. So I turned away from him, walking toward the exit of my office. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. That night, Emily showed up at my door. I didn't want to see her. I didn't want to hear anything she had to say, but there she was, standing on my doorstep, her face a mix of guilt and something else, something I couldn't quite place. "Jared," she said softly, almost pleading. "Please, just hear me out. I can't take this anymore. What we had, it wasn't a lie. I loved you. But what happened with Kyle, it wasn't supposed to go this way." I couldn't even look at her. I didn't want to see the tears in her eyes. I didn't want to hear the broken tone in her voice. She was just as guilty as Kyle. Just as responsible. "I don't want to hear it, Emily," I said, my voice cold. "You don't get to stand here and try to explain this. What you did is unforgivable. But I never meant for this to happen," she said, her voice cracking. "I swear to you, Jared, I didn't want to hurt you. It just happened. I don't even know how it got this far." I stared at her for a moment, my emotions swirling. "That's the problem. You never thought about the consequences. You never thought about me. You never thought about anything except yourselves. I'm so sorry, Jared," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Please, please just give me a chance to fix this. I love you. I swear I do." I shook my head. "No. You don't get to love me now. Not after what you've done." There was a long pause, and for a second, I almost felt like I was going to break. I almost wanted to give in, to let her back in, to believe that maybe things could be fixed. But I couldn't. I couldn't forgive her. I couldn't forgive Kyle. And the worst part was, I realized I would never look at either of them the same way again. "This is over, Emily," I said, my voice firm. "It's done." With that, I closed the door in her face. The days that followed were a blur. I didn't talk to either of them again. I couldn't. There was nothing left to say. I had lost both of them. I had lost my trust, my sense of security, and the future I thought I was building. But something else happened too. I started to realize that maybe, just maybe, this was a blessing in disguise. Maybe the best thing for me was to walk away from all of it. To rebuild. To start fresh. I didn't have all the answers. But I knew one thing. I was going to be okay. I would be stronger for this, no matter how much it hurt. And as for Emily and Kyle? They could have each other. I didn't need them. I didn't need anyone who could betray me like that.